Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ask on CYC. They say life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but measured by the moments that take our breath away. So today we're going to talk about one of those moments, and that is being a dad for the first time. So we have two new dads on the show with us tonight, but in order for the show to be successful, I'm going to give you the phone number, and please send us your questions to 0416 551 292. Send your questions in and we'll answer your questions live on the show tonight. So let's get into it and let's introduce our two new dads. So I'd like to welcome John. John, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Mina. Glad to be here.
And welcome Ebram to the show.
Hi, Mina. Thank you for the invite.
So John, I want the audience members to get comfortable with you. So let's get to know you better. What do you do for work?
I'm a mechanical engineer in the railway sector, and I've been doing this for close to 13 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. A bit of hands-on sort of stuff.
And please introduce us to your daughter. What is her name?
Emily Rose is her name.
And how old is she at the moment?
She's just about to turn 3 months.
Can we please bring Emily Rose's picture up on the screen? I want the audience to know who inspired tonight's show. So this is your daughter, Emily Rose. How old is she, you said?
She's almost 3 months.
Almost 3
I'm
months.
glad you're pronouncing it correctly, because when we first called her Emily, people were saying, "Oh, Emily." I'm like, "No." "Oh, Amelia." "No, it's Emily." So we had to deal with that for the first couple of months, but it's almost sorted out now.
That's good to hear. And Ebram, what do you do for work?
I'm a civil engineer and commercial builder.
Okay, and please introduce us to your daughter. How old is she and what is her name?
My daughter is 9 months old and just going on to an extra week there, and her name is Trinity Ghaly.
Okay, can we please bring her picture up on the screen so the audience can know who inspired tonight's show? So let's get into it. So I wanted to ask you guys, when you guys first found out that you guys are going to be a dad for the first time. So John, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
So what was your initial reaction when you first found out?
Look, I don't know if you can describe it that way. It was shock and happiness and an extreme, how can I say, a big wave of emotion when we found out. Monica was sick on the day, and I took the day off as well just to look after her, and we went to the doctors, and that's how we found out. She came out and said, "Guess what?" And I couldn't believe it. I thought she was kidding. But then, like I said, it was just a big wave of emotion, and it was pretty awesome. Yeah, and all these thoughts running through my head, but more on that later, I think.
Okay, Ebram, please share your initial reaction when you first found out.
Well, my parents always used to tell me, they used to say in Arabic, may the Lord one day make your kids do to you what you did to us. So when I first found out that I was having a baby, that's actually the first thing that went through my head. It was like, uh-oh, it's starting, and here we go. But after that, I was excited. I've got 2 older sisters and a twin brother who all got married before me and had kids before I even got married. So having a kid around in the family wasn't a far off thing for me, but to finally have one of my own, and I can call my own, I can say, it was a mixture of a bit of everything, fear, exciting, unknown, so that's pretty much it.
Okay, so John, let's talk about the days leading after you found out. What was the thought processes going through your head?
How can I say? I went back to my childhood, and it's really hard to explain, because you've been raised a certain way, and you think, okay, there's a big responsibility now. Am I going to raise my daughter, my kid? We didn't know at the time whether it was a boy or a girl, and we didn't find out. Am I going to be a good dad? Am I going to raise my son or daughter in the same way? It's such a big responsibility, and what's this person going to be like? Are they going to be healthy? So all these thoughts, things that are totally different than what I was thinking of the week before. Actually, I was in the process of looking to buy a classic car, and I was really engrossed in doing that. And as soon as I found out, that just switched off completely. I cancelled a flight, and that was gone. Whatever was in that occupying that headspace just disappeared, and it was just filled with, what kind of parent am I going to be like?
Sure.
Yeah.
Ebram, when you found out, days leading after that, John mentioned that he sacrificed the car. So obviously there's going to be a lot of sacrifices leading to childbirth. Were these at all going through your mind, all the sacrifices that you were about to go through?
Yeah. So when I when I proposed to my wife and I started to take that step, I knew there was going to be a lot of sacrifices made and responsibilities taken on board. And obviously, when we found out we were having a child, I knew that was going to be taken that step further and beyond that even. So I knew there was going to be a lot of sacrifices that I needed to make. Especially, like I said, I wasn't having a baby around. I was familiar with that, and I've seen what my brothers and sisters went through. So I knew, I kind of had a feeling of what to expect, but it was always you play with the kid, and then oh, here you go back to mummy. But I knew that when I have my own one, it wasn't going to be the case. So I had to go from A to B to C all the way to Z with it. So yeah, obviously, yeah.
Ebram, let's face it, people who've had children before are automatic experts for childbirth. So I want to ask you, how did you deal with the bombardment of advice people came up to you leading up towards your childbirth?
Look, because there's a lot of unknowns, you kind of take some of it on board. Basically, like you can't help it but want to listen because you're not sure yourself. So you want that advice kind of thing, but sometimes it gets a bit too much. And I tend to joke around and go, "Oh, really? You did that to your own kid? Oh, really? Oh, okay. Thanks for the heads up. I won't be doing that to my kid," kind of thing, because it explains a lot about yours. And as a joking way, but like a lot of it you take on board because as long as it makes sense to you and it feels right to you, you take on board. But a lot of it you got to just brush it off because there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, totally. You got to filter out the good and the bad, the ridiculous and the really helpful. I want to just go back on the sacrifices bit. I just wonder if I could add something on that.
Yeah, of course.
We were told a lot about all the sacrifices that are going to be made, and you're not going to be able to do this and do that. And you tend to have your head in a kind of a picture of what it's going to be like, things that you're going to give up. But in reality, it's most people who say you're going to give these things up, sacrifices, sometimes don't have kids themselves, and they just expect that that's what's going to happen. I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, but it's been certainly changes. It's different. And yes, there are things that we can't do now that we used to do before, but just it's rewarding that it becomes trivial, it becomes insignificant. I'm at a stage now where I guess, things have settled down a little bit, and the first few weeks is really hard. But I think definitely it totally offsets the sacrifices. And on the people meddling in, like Ebram said, you got to filter out that stuff. But again, there's all these misconceptions about, how difficult sometimes it is. And not just labour, you see on TV and women struggling in labour and all of that. But no one, for example, talks about, breastfeeding, how hard breastfeeding is, and getting that happening. For the first week, it took us a while to work out that it was actually Monica meant to breastfeed, not me, but that's a different story. It's a joke, obviously, but, so these things you sometimes need to have people who have gone through it before, your family, to help out. So, you get some people saying, feed the wife gargir, after giving birth, and you think, okay, what's that for? It's pretty funny.
So it's good to go in with an open mind.
Definitely, but it's good to ask for help when you need it.
Sure. Just a reminder to our viewers, please. The phone number is 0416 551 292. If you're thinking about becoming a father for the first time, or someone who is a father for the first time, please tune in and ask questions, and we'll answer your questions live here tonight on the show. So I want to talk about leading up to the birth date. So the couple of days before the child was born. So Ebram, what was the emotions like? Obviously, these emotions won't be the same as when you first found out because you're getting closer to the date. What was going through your mind a couple of days before?
Look, that's a simple answer. It's just a straightforward answer. By the end of the pregnancy, all you can think about is hurry up, get out. I want to meet you. I want to see you. I've seen you on the ultrasound. You're looking adorable, but enough is enough. Just come out already. Let me see you. Let me touch you. Let me kiss you. Let me hold you. So I think it's more focused on, you just want it to happen already.
Okay.
More than anything.
And John, what was going through your mind?
That and oh my God, I have to clean the house, clean the baby room. I mean, a lot of stuff everywhere you kind of have to get rid of, and I had to pick up my musical equipment and get it out of there and store it in the garage. So I suppose that is a sacrifice. But yeah, getting the house ready for the baby, getting a room ready, and she's spent not one single night in that room till today.
Still in your room.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get into the exciting stuff. The moment your daughter was placed in your arms at the hospital, John, please share and go into detail.
Man, I was shaking, and I was crying, and Monica was crying, and I got really quite emotional. And I mean, you've had kids in the family. I'm the oldest of 5, and my sister, who is watching right now with Monica, and I'm going to embarrass you there, but I remember her being Emily's size, but still holding your own. I was nervous not to drop her, and but I was just so filled with emotion looking at this little person. We didn't know it was going to be a girl as well, so it was totally unexpected, and yeah, just very emotional, but happy. There was a little bit of sadness as well because my parents aren't around anymore, and in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I really wish my parents, my mum and dad, were also here to experience this moment. But yeah, very emotional.
Okay, Ebram, please share your.
Mine was actually a bit different to John's. I think I went into the world's longest shock. I actually went into a big shock, and it actually took me till the next day to get out of it. So the whole day, I can honestly say, I felt nothing. I felt blank emotionally, mentally, physically. It was like just nothing, absolutely nothing. But the next day, I went home and I slept, and the next day I woke up, and it was a completely different kind of feeling. It was something that just all caught up to me. It was just delayed, and then it just all caught up to me and blew up. I remember getting out of bed in the morning, and it was really early, and I didn't want to wait. I just did whatever I had to do quickly, grabbed my coffee, put it in the travel mug, and I got out of that door and I drove like a maniac all the way to the hospital, and I just bolted just to see my daughter and pick her up. So yeah, it was the first experience. I thought I was a bad dad. I actually thought I was a bad dad because I felt nothing. I thought, what was wrong with me? Until I spoke to another dad, and he said that he actually went through the same thing, and it was apparently normal. But yeah, it was a complete shock, world's longest shock.
Yeah.
And as men, we sometimes it's never happened to you before. We don't know how to deal with it sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's so emotional.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe that's right. Yeah.
I cry every once in a while. I've been known to do that, so I kind of just let it out.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, we've got a couple of questions that came in from audience members. Let's share one each. Okay. So Ebram, one of the questions that came in, they're asking, how do you balance time between going out with your mates and time with your family and your daughter?
Oh, easy. You take your family and your daughter and go out with your mates. No. Look, it's very hard. It's very hard. It's not something that it's just something you just got to go with it and take it as it comes. Like you dedicate a time for prayer and a time for, family, a time for church on Sunday morning. Everyone knows Sunday morning. It's mass, it's, Sunday school, because me and my wife are servants. So we know that that time is allocated for that purpose. So it's kind of thing like, you do it that way, you organise it with your wife, every second week I'm going night out with the boys or whatever. And a lot of wives sometimes have an issue with that, but a lot of wives, and lucky for me, my wife is one of them, doesn't have an issue with it. She understands it and she's happy for me to just go out and get a bit of time out. And she gets it the same, so she gets that same time out. She goes out with her mates and I stay home and babysit. So it works for us.
Sure. Before I ask you the second question, we actually got a phone call that came in. So welcome caller, welcome to CYC.
Hello?
Yeah, hi
Hello.
caller.
Hi. Hi, it's Paul here. I have a question for Ebram in particular. How would you say childbirth has affected your maturity in sense that, do you now foresee planning for your child, whereas before if you were single it was sort of here and now, planning holidays with your wife? Like did it change your thought process in terms of future-wise?
I'm sorry, my earpiece wasn't clear.
Okay, can you please repeat the question, caller?
I suppose the question is, how has having a child affected your, maturity in sort of decision making and planning ahead for the future? Because without a child, it's obviously very, spontaneous. But with a child, how has that affected you, or how has it affected you?
Okay, thank you caller for your question.
You're welcome.
I suppose, Paul, it's something that you only, you got to have a child to feel and understand it. When you pick up your child and you look at it and you hold it in your hand, you just can't help it but want to live for them and get them everything they need and basically do everything right by them and ensure they grow up to be the person with the potential and everything they can be. And you obviously want them to be better than you. So I suppose you need to step back and think and look, how can I make this happen for this child? And maturity is a big part of it. You will have to take that step, basically for the sake of your kid, because you want to do the right thing by them, and you want to be that idol or that figure or that person they look up to, and when they do, you want to make sure that that image that they see is the right image, I suppose, and the image that you want your kids to reflect when they go out into the world.
Okay, thank you caller for your question. So John, moving into the second question that came in through the audience, they're asking, how do you cope with parental stress?
Parental stress. Look, it's important to touch on what Ebram said. You need to sometimes take a little bit of a break. It can be a little bit stressful, and especially when in the early months, lack of sleep can drive you insane. If you get very little sleep during the night, and then your sleep is disturbed several times, it's not just the stress. You turn into a complete psychopath sometimes. No disrespect, honey. I'm sorry. It goes for both of us. So dealing with that, you sometimes just need to do something a little bit different. Get out of the house as much as possible. If you're cooped up in the house, you can go a little bit nuts. So try to get out, get the pram out. We got out with Emily just in the first couple of weeks, pretty much, to the park. Try to eat out for Saturday mornings, breakfast, eat in a cafe. And also hang out with your mates. And the key there, building on what Ebram was saying, Outlook calendar, have a particular night a month, because the other friends may also have their own families. It's hard for them to organise something on the fly instead of a whole group of you. Outlook and make sure it's planned. But yeah, getting out and not just baby 24/7. Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've covered the exciting and fun stuff, we're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, let's get serious on the topic and talk about the serious stuff.
I was serious before.
How serious can you get?
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
man.
So thank you, audience, for tuning in. And please, when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on being a dad for the first time. The phone number is 0416 551 292. The show is nothing without you, audience members. So please send your questions or give us a call and we'll answer your questions live tonight on the show. Thank you.
CYC, Christian Youth Channel.
Welcome back to Ask on CYC. On today's episode, we're talking about being dad for the first time. So please, the phone number is 0416 551 292. Send your questions and we'll answer a few live on the show tonight. So in the first half of the show, we talked about the exciting and fun stuff. So let's talk about the serious stuff. I want to talk about the transition home. So after the hospital. So what I want you guys to talk about is the crying, the nappy changing, the no sleep, the feeding. So what's the process behind all this stuff? Like what needs to be done, or what happens in that transition?
Do you want to take this one first?
Look, I've got a special poo story for you. But we'll cover that later.
They always make good stories.
This one is insane. But anyhow, the first couple of nights, you're sort of worried. Emily's sleeping. She's sleeping. Is she breathing? What's going on? You know, she all right? So it's a little bit, you know, because you've got no help. You're on your own now. You're not in the hospital anymore. So it's that, are we doing the right thing? You know, feeding, how much do we feed her and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of unknowns and, yeah, scary a little bit as well. That drive home, actually, on the way, this is probably the slowest I've ever driven in my life.
100%.
Strapping Emily in, and she's like out of hospital. She's about this small in a child seat, which is about this big. You know, trying to get a belt on her is just hilarious. And yeah, that drive home, I was 20, 30 kilometers an hour, and everyone's out to get me. You know, why is this guy so close? But yeah, because you're in that protective mode. You know, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, and that she's all right.
What happened to the poo story?
Poo story will come later because that one needs a little bit. It was one of those. Should I get into it now?
Yeah, you can get into it.
Are you sure?
We actually have a photo, but we're not going to show it. Because
no. That's I do have a photo. Yeah, I did post it on Facebook, so I hope you're not talking about the same one.
Yeah, the tech team upstairs actually have the photo,
Seriously?
but we can't post it because of the rating of the show.
Yeah, do not post it. But long story short, Monica leaves me with Emily. She had to go off, and it was only an hour and a half. And I've got it together, all good. She's sitting on my lap, and then, she let her number 2 go in the nappy, and it went on for ages. It was like, I thought, great, it's done. Time to change it. So I put her on the change table, and she's sort of sideways. And I made a rookie mistake, which I'll learn later. I'll correct next time. Though after that incident, I didn't change a nappy for 2 weeks. But anyway, so I took the nappy off, and it was full of weird baby poo stuff. And then I took it away, and I turned around for another nappy, and it was the biggest poo explosion I've ever seen. Okay, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry or what. It went all over the wall.
Oh no!
All over everything. It went over the hand sanitizer, so I couldn't even use that. It went everything. And then the first thing I did before cleaning it up, I said, "This is insane." I went and got a tape measure. 1.89 meters. Okay, I've got photos to prove it. It's unbelievable. I've never seen that. I heard of this as a legend, but yeah, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and I spent quite some time cleaning it up.
The engineering in you.
To calculate mathematically the exit velocity, and I just thought there is no way that baby could shoot something like that out that far. I can go on it for days, and I probably would, but maybe we'll just move on from there.
Okay.
That was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Abram, so I hear that feeding time is between every 2 to 3 hours. So how did you guys cope with that, especially waking up every 2-3 hours?
Well, look, if you're talking about early days,
yeah,
I don't need to basically because it's breastfeeding. Not much I can do there, so I slept through it. Usually I'm a light sleeper, but when you kind of get on an alert mode when you're at night. So you turn into a zombie after that kind of thing, and you just like, you know, you hear the in the back, and you just wake up and you're like, babe, the baby. And then she wakes up and she's like, babe, that's an ambulance. It's a siren. Go back to sleep. You know, you don't know the difference. And it does get like that. You just don't know. But yeah, it's something you just get on alert. You just wake up. But usually I went back straight away. Sometimes because she's tired, she just sleeps through it. So I wake up, I wake her up, help her up. And the baby we hired a baby cot, one like the ones you have in the hospital. You can hire those, and it's on wheels and stuff. So we had that right next to our bed, so she didn't have to go far to get the baby. So sometimes she'd wake me up because she's too tired. I'll get up and burp her and put her to bed while she goes to sleep.
Sure. That leads me to my next question. So your partners, let's talk about your partners, because they did a lot of work, so they should be commended for the work they've done. So how did they deal, and how did you help in the process?
I was really awesome for the first couple of days in terms of helping out, but then I kind of slacked off a little bit. I said one of those things which you should never ever say. I don't even know if I should talk about it. But Monica is a trooper. She really, really surprised me, I have to say. I did not expect that. She was just going to switch into mum mode just like that, you know. Just amazing. You know, just tries really hard and always try to do the best for Emily, and it's like automatic for her. You know, she's turned from someone who's a really heavy sleeper and would sleep through a tornado ripping through the house to somebody who is, you know, really in tune with Emily. By the same token, I've turned from a very light sleeper to sleeping through anything.
So how did you help?
You just try to clean up a little bit around the house and make sure that I also try to give a bit of emotional support because they're also, you know, we have emotions, when you can imagine, you know, mums as well, being a new mum, there's all this stuff going on. We can't just assume it's automatic. There's a lot of changes there. So try to support her emotionally a little bit. If she's a little bit snappier from lack of sleep, you know, try to park the pride a little bit and just, you know, just try to look after her. And try not to say things like, what have you been doing all day when you come home? Which is what I said in the first week.
You learned the hard way?
Yeah, I was in the doghouse for a while. But it's something that, we laugh about it now, but it's a big transition, and she's feeling her way, I'm feeling my way, and we just need to be supportive of each other and do it together.
So a mental note for all the men out there: don't tell your
wives.
What have you been doing all day?
Do not say that.
As a male, you can't help it but think that, because you work so hard all day, and you just get home and you just want to relax and tune out. But
no,
it can't happen, right? It's like going home to a wrestling match. You know, it's you and your wife versus the baby, and she's like on the outside with the bottle, tag me, while you're changing the nappies. As soon as you change it, you tag her, she jumps in with the bottle, and then you're on the outside, tag me, and, you know, pick her up, burp it. So it's like you got to support each other, and you don't have that chance to just tune out. And it's very, very important that you jump in, because you can only really understand it when you spend the whole day with the baby and try to deal with constant crying and not knowing why the baby's crying. You try the nappy, still crying. You feed it, still crying, and you don't know, and it can actually get very, very stressful. So it's very important that, you know, you just, when you get home, give your wife that bit of support, especially emotion, like he was saying. It's very, very important, because they're going through something that we don't understand as males. And they'll need it, like, especially that constant assurance. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, you know. Don't ever say, oh, you put the nappy on the wrong way. Stuff like that. No negatives, basically. No negatives, Oh, why did the nappy leak? Oh, maybe because you didn't put it properly. Oh, you can't have any negatives. Try to always be positive with the wife.
Okay.
But it's funny, as soon as you're getting home, it's like, okay, now I want you to do this and this and this. If you've got a recliner, just get rid of it. Don't sit on it. It's just going to be too hard to get off.
So like our caller who spoke about maturity, so this is when the maturity kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Adjusting and being considerate to your partner. Yeah.
you kind of have no choice.
I'm not sure if mine will ever kick in. It's different.
Okay, so we just spoke about the transition home the first few months. I know Trinity is she's 9 months and 1 week, you said?
Yes, correct.
So does it get easier or does it get worse?
I want the answer to that one.
Look, it's a bit of both. So it gets easier in some things, but it gets worse in others. So it gets easier in the way that, she's sleeping longer hours. So you're able to sleep in
Thank God.
those longer hours, not by much, only by 2. So you're getting about the 5 hours, it makes a difference. But it gets harder in sense of she's more alert, she's more active. So you got to be more active with her. So you can't be sitting down. When she starts to crawl to PowerPoint, you got to get up and get her. When she starts to crawl towards the kitchen, you got to get up and get her. You can't just leave her. So you got to be on your toes a lot more when she's up. Also, because she understands more, you got to entertain more. You got to sit and play, and you can't just leave her like that. It's not just a matter of giving her the bottle, burping her, putting her to bed, and that's it for the next 3 hours. It doesn't get like that at all. So I suppose it does get harder in areas and easier in others.
Okay, something to look out for, John.
I mean, for me, what I'm seeing right now at almost 3 months is Emily's becoming a little bit more interactive. So she's starting to smile. She's starting, to look at her own hands and feet, and it's only in the last couple of days. So she's giving a little bit back, if I can say that, as opposed to just, change me and feed me and put me to bed. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to her sleeping a little bit longer in the night.
It's a lot more fun.
Okay, we got a question that just came in from an audience member. They're asking, maybe you both can answer this question. How do you feel knowing that you're answerable to God for this new life? This is a great question.
It's a
Christian channel, so this is definitely a must-ask question. Yeah.
I mean, another way to put that is not, of course, we're all answerable to God, but the responsibility that you have in raising your daughter the right way, in raising her in a good Christian home, and it's a big responsibility, and it's a time that you reflect on your own behavior, your own spirituality, your own connection with God, because you can't pretend you have one and then expect to teach somebody. You can't teach what you don't know. So it's important that, and I think I'm in the reflection stage right now. But it is important to just really think as a man, as the head of the family, what you need to do to be able to, bring your child up in that way. Yeah.
Okay. Same question, Ibi.
Yeah, I feel sorry for my confession father, because I understand what he's going through now with that kind of responsibility towards me. But yeah, it's actually very scary to know that you're liable for it and you got to answer the questions. And I suppose the way I deal with it is I pray that God directs me in the right direction and helps me do it in the way that He wants me to do, and He be the leader to help me lead. But it's exactly like John was saying. It's something that you just got to have a relationship with God first. Make sure yours is right, and then because you're not just responsible for the baby's spirituality, but also your wife's. So you took that on board. Unit. Yeah, you took that on board. Not when you had a baby, but you took that on board when you walked down the aisle, and you knew. So it's something that you've been preparing for from day one. So yeah.
Okay, we've got another question that just came in. They're asking, what's the toughest thing you've experienced being a new parent? John, would you like to go?
I think, apart from the poo story, it was pretty insane. I won't mention it anymore. actually what we were just talking about, the
Okay.
gravity of that responsibility, and
Sure.
exactly as Abram says, not just for your baby, but also for creating a Christian home.
Mm.
Yeah, so that responsibility is, especially on the dads, I would say, we would bear it. Where the yeah.
Okay.
For me, it's probably more adaptation and the change. That took a lot out of me because it was something that like I had in the back of my mind, but actually applying it, yeah, it took a lot out of me. It wasn't easy to make that change and take that transition.
What was it like when you went back to work, knowing that you had to leave your daughter back at home when the first early stages?
Uh, that can go back to that previous question. One of the hardest things. It's actually very, very hard, and you just you go to work. It's good in the sense that it gives you something to look forward to at the end of the day. That you're gonna go home to your daughter, but it's actually very, very hard because you're always wondering how she is. I do this a lot of times. I don't know about you, but I pick up my phone and I look through the pictures
Yeah.
of her
Do you
because
travel a
I
bit
miss
for work
her.
at all?
Yeah, I'm always out on the road, offices, this, that. So, as in far away? No,
Yeah.
no, I haven't done that yet.
I have a few times, and it's really hard.
I,
And same thing,
yeah.
videos, photos. Yeah.
I did go for, because I organise primary school camps for our church, so I did have to go to that for 3 days. And unfortunately, my wife and daughter couldn't attend because it was still early days. So, yeah, I did that for 3 days, and it absolutely drove me crazy. It was pretty hard. But, yeah, my wife knows it. She always updates me, so she'll send me pictures of, what Trinity's doing now. Oh, look, she's got, food all over her face and stuff like that. It kind of drives you crazy, but it keeps you going throughout the day, and it just gives you that something to look forward to when you go home.
Bro,
Okay.
please do me a favor and just look at the camera and tell my wife not to whinge every time I ask her to send me photos all day.
We got another question that came in from the audience member. They're asking, is there an ideal age or length of marriage before thinking about kids?
I don't know. I mean,
Or maybe the question can be rephrased. When did you guys know you were ready?
for us, I mean, I love kids. Grown up with kids my whole life, but we still wanted to spend a bit of time together, travel, and actually, when we found out Monica was pregnant, we also squeezed in some overseas trips as well, just to get that out of the way. So I think you'll know when you're ready, but it's good to have a plan. It's good to at least a very basic plan. Of course, it's up to God when these things happen, but it's good to have a basic plan. Hey, we want to travel maybe for a year, or in the first year or two, or maybe we're thinking of living overseas for a little bit. I mean, these are things you need to just have a basic plan and work around it. Obviously, there's also a biological clock to keep in mind. So
Yeah.
keep all that
Especially-
for guys and girls.
Especially Egyptians, in the Egyptian community.
And there's also, yes, the Egyptian whinge factor that you might have to, when's the baby coming? And as soon as you have one, when's the next one coming? That sort of thing. But I think, you got a plan and you have to agree on. There's no set formula, I would say. I mean, I'm an old dad. I'm not sure if you guys know. I'm 40, so I started a little.
You're still young.
I started a little bit. Well, relatively speaking, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
I started a little bit late, and it's because that's when I was ready.
Sorry to interrupt. You must be doing something right because you look great.
Yeah. So I moisturize and exfoliate regularly. Yeah, I can't believe I just said that. No one else sees that.
Okay. So, Abram, when did you know you were ready?
Look, I guess it's the same question. Like before marriage, you ask, "Oh, how do you know she's the one?" It's a very, very common question. It's not something that you just kind of. It's just something that you feel. Like John was saying, you will feel like you're ready. But in the other side, I think it's important to ensure that you've at least spent a good time with your wife and got to know her, because in marriage, usually the first year is one of the hardest years because you're trying to adapt to each other's personalities, differences, etc. So I think it's important that you spend that and you do a bit of traveling, you enjoy your life with your partner. So I think it's important to get that done, but it's also important to make sure you're ready financially, spiritually, physically, mentally, because it is another, like I was saying, transition and a big change in life. So, but at the end of the day, you're going to feel like you're ready, and you're going to feel in your heart that you want that kid now.
Of course.
Being ready physically, that was in theory a great idea, but I seem to have put on quite a bit of weight during Monica's pregnancy. I don't know how it happened. So, yeah, no, the physical preparation didn't go so well.
Yeah. So we only have time for one more question. So my last question was, what advice would you give? But the whole show you've been giving great advice. Yeah. So I'm going to change the question to, now that you're a dad and you've been through it, now you know what your dad went through. Are you appreciative to what our parents did for us?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure I would have been a bit of a pain, but I mean, it happens in steps. We're talking about very early childhood here. I think once our girls get into, the difficult ages, I think that will probably, the gravity of that will hit home probably a lot harder than right now.
Sure.
So ask me in about 12 years.
We'll have a part 2 of this show in 10 years' time.
Like I was saying when we first started the show, how my parents always said, may the Lord get your kids to do to you what you did to us. Another thing they were saying was, you'll never understand why we are the way we are until you have your own kid. And so now that I've got my own kid, I see how much I love that kid, and I actually contemplate on that and think back, and I go, what if Trinity did that to me? And I can honestly say, I almost feel, because I don't know exactly how they felt, but I can feel and gasp the feeling of how they would have felt. So yeah, it is a completely different kind of feeling from when you don't understand it, definitely.
Oh, bella che mina.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, John, for having you on the show. It's been a pleasure. And also I'd like to thank you, Ebram, for having you on the show. It's been a pleasure. And I feel I've learned a lot from you guys in the past 45 minutes. Thank you very much. And thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you to our audience members who tuned into tonight's show. Hopefully you gained something for tonight's show. Also, I want to remind you that this will be the last show we have for 2015. It's been a pleasure having you as our audience and your questions. And remember, this show is nothing without you. So please keep your questions coming in the new year of 2016. I'm your host, Mina Ibrahim, from your CYC studios in Sydney. Good night and God bless.
الشخص الروحي يشعر أن حياته ملك للناس. وربنا أعطاه هذه الحياة لخدمة الناس ولإسعاد الناس.
Are you interested in youth problems?